the single most important thing to me with being a business is understanding your why. Is why am I doing this? When we started doing this, there was never a goal of being $100 million company or whatever that was. It's literally the same thing back then that it is today. Is we come in, we work hard, we try to take care of people, and we'll see where that road takes us. We wanted an organization that truly cared about people, really believed that we had a place in the community to help provide those jobs. Is the better off that human being is, the more successful you're going to be.
Don't chase money, chase taking care of people. If you take care of the people, the money will come to you.
Welcome to the $100 Million Mindset, the source for business owners who aspire to scale, grow, and reach their full potential. Whether you're aiming for 5 million, 10 million, or 100 million. Your hosts are Alan O'Neill, the Irish plumber, who scaled Abacus Plumbing and Cooling to over 100 million, and Toenail Todd Liles, a coach to high-performing business leaders and the owner of Service Excellence, are going to help you think bigger, act smarter, and take your business to the next level.
Today's guest is a name that you've probably heard of in the trades because his influence goes beyond business. Gus Antos is the co-founder and CEO of Milestone, a $150 million plus dollar powerhouse in Dallas-Fort Worth area. But this isn't just a story about his growth to 150 million. It's also about building a business with a purpose, leading with integrity, and scaling without losing soul.
And while others chase national expansion and quick wins, Gus has chosen a different path, going deep, not wide. Milestone has become a leadership factory where culture comes first and people aren't just managed but truly led. It's a place where principles matter more than profit margins and where long-term relationships are valued over short-term gains.
Yes, and today we're going to get into the how, but more importantly, we're going to get into the why behind Gus's decisions, including his commitment to stay local, his faith-driven purpose, and his journey through near bankruptcy to market leadership. Gus, thank you so much for being here and welcome to the show.
Well, thank you guys for having me. And I'm just going to play that back, that whole little thing you guys just said every day. So when I get discouraged, that sounds great. No, I appreciate it. And one clarification is I don't think we'll finish this year at 150 million. That would be great if we did, but we're not quite there yet. We have some what we call affiliate companies that we'll talk about later, but with those, we're well over that. But I do want to say that. So also, uh, you know, I think that if you guys want to play a little disclaimer here, that all of these thoughts and anything that's said is Gus Antos. You guys aren't liable for any of that. Uh, I'm not big on doing these types of things and social media. I don't want to be an influencer or anything like that. Some of my thoughts and way that we think about things are different than other people. So the last thing I want to do is upset anybody. So if I do say something that's you guys just completely disagree with, you can just edit it out. So, but I look forward to it and thank you guys.
Gus, we appreciate you. I love the way you introduced the show. It's guaranteed to make people want to listen to the rest of it. So, so please say some offensive things that people won't agree with so that they'll stay all the way to the end, all right?
Okay.
Yeah. Well, just so you know, Gus, we had a gentleman on earlier and he ended up speaking about hookers and cocaine. So it can only get better from there. So
Okay, good. What? Let's go back and watch that. That sounds way more fun.
Just for clarity, he was describing his one really bad partner that he didn't know until he knew that hookers and cocaine was a problem. But if you want to listen to that episode, it's Colin Hathaway. When it releases, you can go back and check it out. Uh, Gus, we've got a lot of questions here that we're going to go over. And I'm going to go right off the script, right off the start, and then I'm going to get into my question because I didn't put this in here on purpose. But when I was coming out and was working with you guys, and I'm very thankful for those early opportunities, I built a relationship with Corey, the guy that was running the CrossFit gym, and was it 312? What's the name of that CrossFit gym?
One ninety.
190.
It's the highway that's right by here.
Gotcha, 190. And Corey was one heck of a human being, and it started in the gym, and after multiple visits, we ended up spending time like going out and eating sushi and stuff. And in the beginning, it was sort of like, hey, it's cool to work out with you. And by the time it was done, Corey's sort of sharing with me his heart and his passion and the struggles that he was having, initially having kids. But then he started talking about you. And at one point, after many visits, he said, "You're just not going to believe it." And he's in the beginning, he's talking about you and how you encouraged him and how you helped him and how you sponsored him and sponsored in the sense of coming in as an investor. He goes, "You're not going to believe it. Just Gus just came in and gave me all the equity back in my business. He didn't ask for anything. He didn't ask for money. He just loved on me and wanted to support me." And I just want to say that the human side of you, I actually learned about really from your relationship with Corey, and I dig Corey as a human. So I'm going to lead off with just some. I just think that speaks to who you are as a human, and you don't have to say anything about that, but I wanted to let you know that that's never left my thoughts.
Well, that's very kind of him to say that and share it with you. And thanks for letting me know that. I don't know if he ever told me that. So it's nice to know that people are saying nice things behind my back.
Oh, for sure. Yeah, for sure.
So,
Well, we're going to start off with your humble beginnings because I think everybody looks at companies like yours now and they say things to themselves like, that can never be us. Yeah, yeah, it'd be really easy to be, Milestone if I was $100 million business, but they don't know that you were almost bankrupt. And at one point, you were making 19,000 a year, and you refused to absolutely stop. That's from your own words. We'll come to that in a second. But first, let's go way, way back to when you were Ag Student of the Year. Okay, you were Ag Student of the Year, Gus. What about Ag Student of the Year, and how did you end up going from being focused on agriculture to being here in the trades?
yeah. So, no different, I don't think, than most people who got into the trades. Life threw you a curveball, or you were doing something you didn't love, and then somehow you got into the trades. So, no particular reason. I wanted to be a veterinarian um, early on, and there was a guy who had this ranch by our house, kind of out where we live. So I got a job there and had nothing to do with veterinarian. It turned out he was a veterinarian, but we didn't do anything with that. All we did was build fences, cut hay. And I think one of the blessings of that early on, by the time I was 15, I had a crew of 4 or 5 people that I was in charge of. I was getting out of school about 1 or 2 o'clock each day and then going out there. Um, my driving force with that was I absolutely hated it. And so I was willing to do anything in life to not work outside doing that type of stuff. And so there was really no pivotal moment inside of that. And so, like I said, you talk to enough people in the trades, very rarely do I ever talk to anyone that had a mapped out plan from the time they were like in high school to I know exactly what I want to do. And so I was in the trades. I ended up going to college. I ended up coming back doing a couple of different things. And then I was going to this church here in town, and I knew a guy there, and he had a small electrical construction company. And the place that I was working, which was a cell phone store, he actually came in and I helped him out. He came back a couple days later, said, "Do you want to come work with me?" And I just went over there. He was like, "I don't even know if I could pay you." I just did not like what I was doing again at that point. And so I came over there and we started working together. And about 6 months into it, we actually shut that company down and we became business partners. And it was called Masterline, and we ended up starting a company called Milestone together. So that's how it started. You said something that some people don't ever think that they see a company like ours or whatever, and they don't know if they can get there. I've never had a when we started doing this, there was never a goal of being $100 million company or whatever that was. It's literally the same thing back then that it is today. Is we come in, we work hard, we try to take care of people, and we'll see where that road takes us. So I would tell that to anybody: is you're probably closer than you think you are if you're just willing to put the work in.
Ooh. So you guys had a near bankruptcy. What was going on in that season, and what was happening behind the scenes to get to that point?
Yeah, and that was really the startup of the company. You know, similar to Alan or a lot of contractors that you talk to, I wasn't there when that was happening, but that company that my business partner had, a construction company, he had gone through 9/11. A lot of general contractors didn't pay him, and our agreement, I was a lot, I was 21 when this was happening. He was like, "I'll go 50-50 partners with you, but our agreement will be that any money that we make beyond paying ourselves will have to go towards paying off the debt that had accumulated." And he's also a faith-based person, obviously. He said, "I just don't ever want to owe anybody money or say that I didn't pay him back." And so he's like, "If you'll just agree to that, then I'll be 50-50 partners with you." And he was an electrician. And so early on, I mean, the first 5 years, it was just tough, tough. It was every penny we made was either trying to buy a van, stock it, pay off previous debts. And so I mean, we literally started in a hole. So even the profits that we were making couldn't go back into growing the company. And so it was bad, man. But it teaches you a lot going through stuff like that, and to juggle a lot, and be thankful for when times are smoother. And so I don't know if that answers the question, but yeah.
Alan, I'll tell you what. This is the second or third time in the last 3 or 4 episodes that we have heard people essentially talk about, you know, essentially those first 4 or 5 years being incredibly hard, very challenging, just essentially trying to build a foundation that's going to get you to where you can eventually grow. And they're not even necessarily thinking about 100 million. And then yet the entire world of contracting right now seems to be ate up with these people that if they haven't made it in a year, they're flipping out. It's like, and then Gus is over here saying, no, no, we suffered for 5 years plus.
Right. I mean, I
Still
think
suffering.
it says a lot about you, Gus, that you were willing to stick, and your partner, that you were willing to stick with that, and you believed in your mission. I think it means a lot. You've said your family made major sacrifices to survive at that time. What were you holding on to during that season?
Alan, I think that's a great question. I think the single most important thing to me with being a business is understanding your why. WHY is, why am I doing this? And if you there's that saying, when values are clear, decisions are easy. I actually think it's when your why is clear, decisions are easy. For us, what we were holding on to, I knew at that point I was young enough I could go work somewhere else. I could do something, but it was always in my heart from a pretty early age. I don't know why. Like some people that wanted to play professional sports, or or whatever, I wanted to have a business where people looked forward to coming. That it's all around, faith based for us, but that we wanted an organization that truly cared about people, that made a difference in their life, that work wasn't the worst part of their life, that they weren't having a great Saturday and Sunday and dreading Monday, and really believe that we had a place in the community to help provide those jobs. So uh, back then, that was the why. It's still the why today. And I think, when you understand what you're trying to accomplish, and it's important to you, when things get bumpy, you can just go back to, it's worth it for me, and it's worth it for those people, because we understand that. If that makes any type of sense.
No, it does. I'm reminded of a quote from Zig Ziglar. He said, don't chase money, chase taking care of people. If you take care of the people, the money will come to you. And that's clearly what you've done from day one. Even when if you made money, there wasn't money to be had, Gus, it sounds like, right? You had to pay back the debt. But I think and it's also remarkable that, all these years later, the why hasn't changed, right? It's the same simple why you had to start. Take care of your people, take care of your customers, everything else will take care of itself.
Absolutely. Gus, was there a moment when you knew that you were going to make it? This wasn't going to be so hard anymore. We were going to start doing more than just paying off debt.
I mean, the honest to God truth is no. Um, it was a slow grind. There was no magic moment. I can't even tell you. As we all do, you talk to people that have achieved quote unquote success. I think that's probably defined different for a lot of us. But have achieved something that they set out to achieve, whatever that is. And I think a common thread between a lot of those people is they have their head down so much just doing what they do. They never really look up to kind of see where they're at. And what I mean by that is we joined an organization. Todd, you and I met there very early on, SGI, and we were in these, and we were one of the, and Alan too. We were met you there too. We were one of the founding electrical. We were the founding electrical class back in like 2004, and we were going to the conferences, and I was learning everything I could, and I was talking to different contractors. And I mean, probably 2 years in, I'm gonna say we were doing like $2 or $3 million, and at all the conferences, I was never concerned with telling people what we were doing. I was focused on learning. And so, like 2 or 3 years in, I can't remember what it was. Someone said, who in here is, and the whole time I'm thinking, and I still think this to this day, that we are doing a horrible job. Everybody else is doing better. We fail on a day to day basis. Somebody else has us already figured out. And it's because we're coming in. And I remember at this conference, they said, who in here is doing over 500,000 or, and I'm just sitting there. I didn't even raise my hand. And it got to the point where like, who's doing over 3 million? There was like one company in there. And I was like, what do you mean? And I ended up talking to one of the leaders. And they're like, well, what are you doing? I was like, man, I think we're doing like I knew. I was like, we're doing 3.5 million. He's like, you're doing 3.5 million? And back then for electrical, that was like a big deal, I guess. And he was like, but is that with construction? I go, no, we just do residential service. That's all we do. And he was like, you're doing that? And I was like, yeah, why? He goes, that's probably the biggest company. There's like 500 companies. And I was like, you're kidding me. And so, to your point there, that uh, I think a lot of people that work hard, they just have their head down. They're never going, is it over with yet? Or this, that, and the other. You just come in and you do what you do. And you don't watch all the TikTok videos and all that stuff that's out there. You're just working hard doing your deal. And so I do, you know, uh, funny story is at that point, we had a certain amount of money, and it was a lot of money to us. And this guy that we knew was wanting to start this nonprofit thing, and so we were like, you know what, we're going to give the money to this deal. And I do remember this as a turning point, but it's funny how it happened. Is we ended up giving this money, and I was like, this is just the stupidest thing, but we're going to do it. The next week, the Dallas Morning News ran a front page article about how old electrical panels called FPE are really dangerous. I had no idea this was going to happen. They run it, it's on the front page, and the two TV stations pick it up and they show it, and then they came out and interviewed us about it. And we did like 2 months worth of revenue in about like a 2 week time frame. And that, I will tell you, all of a sudden like caught us up financially, where things were a little bit smoother. And I remember thinking, this is not, because as business people, we try to plan all these certain things and do all these certain things. I was like, this isn't even something I could have planned. And so, to answer your question, there was no magic moment. It was an absolute slow grind. It still is.
But may I ask if what I think I'm hearing here is that you did something that you didn't know how you were going to do for not for profit, something that was a blessing, and then you got blessed with this front page opportunity? Is that what I'm
Yeah,
connecting?
that's right. And I want to be careful on how I say that. I'm not one of those people who believe that you give and it's like a slot machine and you get something back. I do believe when you hold loosely to the things that we're supposed to value the most, that good things end up happening that further what you're trying to accomplish. And so, but yeah, that did. I still have it. If you ever come to the office in our little hallway, it's framed. this Dallas Morning News article. I mean, it's the craziest thing. FPE, it's the most uninteresting story in America, and they put it on the front page, and then the two TV stations get it and come and interview us. So that's kind of our journey. That's woven all the way through our story of giving and things happening like that. So
Alan, have you ever been
yeah,
to their office?
No, I have not. No, no. I've been to the competitions office very
Yeah.
often, but
W-
no, never.
I would go there too. I think they do a lot better job.
No, I don't know about that. I mean, I think you both. A couple of observations, Gus. Like, what's amazing is how yourself and Jimmy are so close, and yet fierce competitors,
Mhm.
but friendly competitors, right? And I think there's actually a lesson there for contractors all over the United States that look, you don't have to be enemies with your competition.
Amen.
You can, the tide will rise all ships, right? So I think that's really. But Gus, as you look back on all that, if you had to, pick a leadership lesson or a statement about resilience that got you through that time, what would they be?
Um, One of my favorite quotes, uh, and I think this is just true for every people and every person in every season. You spent most of us, whether no matter what financial position you're in, it does not matter. What I found is most of us worry about something that hasn't happened while we're enjoying something that we never thought would. And the quote is by Mark Twain. He said, "I'm an old man now and have known great many of troubles, but most of them have never happened." And I think going through that season, all the time I was worried about, is this about to happen? Is that about to happen? Is this about to happen? And none of it actually happened. One of the problems with being strategic, if and I think most business owners have that, is you can strategically put a lot of successful things in place, but you can also strategically figure out how you're going to go out of business in like 1 week and never actually happens. Like we have one bad call day. I can go home and get from one bad call volume day to I'm living on the street with my family like within 10 minutes. And I can tell you how all that's going to happen, and it's just comical like that. Um, I think that there is absolutely no substitute for going through tough times. And I got two little boys, not so little anymore, 15 and 13. And we talk about a lot of stuff about, the businesses and stuff like that. And one thing I tell them is, I will never take the privilege away from you of you finding your own way and doing your own thing, because I think that is where the most joyous parts of life are, is in the struggle when you find out who you are and what you're made of, and you actually build a lot of that. And you know, I think our natural thing is to run from tough times, but I actually think those tough times, we all know that, is who makes us what we are. And so I don't know that I have any specific leadership principles outside of just get in the boat and do it, man. And it's going to be okay. Your life story, it's not going to, good or bad, no matter what happens, it's not going to define you. And, you know, just, just keep moving. I mean, I know that's simple. I know there's a lot of quotes and a lot of stuff that people say, but that's what I would tell my boys. And so I just think for me, that's the biggest leadership or principle is just keep moving. I mean, it's going to be okay.
You, there's so much real value here, and I'm not sure what day we caught you on, but it feels like we might have caught you working through some sort of crisis. And I no, but I really, really love it because the things that you're saying are hitting hard. They're hitting relevant. It feels like you're being as transparent as you possibly can be. And you said something about worry, right? And I've thought of it like this. I'm sure I heard it somewhere that hope is the belief in a positive future, and anxiety is the worry in a negative future. They're two sides of the same coin. It's the future. And I know that you're a believer, so I'm going to tell you the story that I shared with Alan a little bit earlier about one of my team leaders, and we were visiting, and he was asking me about his performance, and I said the one thing that I'd advise you to do is don't live so much in worry. To which he said, but you've told me these things are priorities. And I'm like, they are priorities. But they're like the ox being in the ditch. You know, if you look at Jesus's life, because I know you're a big believer, I want to put this out here for you. When the storm is going on, he's chilling in the boat sleeping. He's like, hey, don't wake me up. I need this rest. And I'm like, you need this rest. I said, at the same token, when it was a Sabbath and work had to be done, he's like, hey, let's do this work. It's got to get done. And the only time we ever see him stress and worry is in Gethsemane when he knew what was about to happen. And yeah, that would be pretty stressful. But it's the only time you actually see him worry about something to the point that he's bleeding sweat of tears or sweating blood, I should say. So I think there's a lot of wisdom here, and if only we could recognize that most of our angst are actually existing in our mind, but it's hard to do that. It's really hard to do that.
It is. I'm not working through any specific crisis. Anytime I share, I want to talk to people. There's a million other things that you could watch or listen to about how people tell you how all the stuff that goes right and this, that, and the other. And there's a lot of that, obviously. I like being in the boat with people that are real and that will talk about real stuff and have some level of, vulnerability. Um, because I think that's where real life lives. And so but that's a great story. I actually just read that Gethsemane part this morning in Luke, where he was like talking to the disciples, as employees. He's literally like, can you guys just not get this right for a couple of hours? And they keep falling asleep and all that. So pretty funny. So anyways, yeah.
It is sort of interesting where in other times he'd be like, rest, but this one time he's like, no, I need you to stay up.
That's
This
right.
is the one time I need you to support me.
Right.
That's right.
So, Gus, we know that for you, this is not just a service business, it's a people business. What do you mean when you say that this is a people business?
Yeah. It's one of the few businesses that truly, whether you want it to be or not, our product is a human being. It's literally a human being. Our product does, and maybe in my next life and Alan's and all of ours, we will get to be in a business where we sell a product and then long afterwards, it's still doing something like an Apple phone. I always use this example. Um, I say we're in the people business and our product is a person. The same way that Apple spends all of their time designing this product and understanding it and make sure it functions right and all of that. I think we are meant to do that with our product, which is a person. And we send that person out into the customer's home and into the environment. And, you know, I am very passionate about that for a whole bunch of reasons. Even if you don't, if someone doesn't believe what I believe, what we can both agree is the better off that human being is, the more successful you're going to be. And so, whenever I say we're in the people business, we have to. Apple's in the technology business. So they have to understand all that. We're in the people business. We have to understand people. We have to build people. One of the stories, if you want to talk about faith, which is my favorite thing to talk about, and I have it in my office, is there's no stories in the Bible about building companies. But as believers, faith based believers, we spend all of our time thinking about that. There is no stories about that. There's only stories about building other human beings and helping them. And so that's what we spend uh, all of our time on here. I tell our team, and I mean this with every bone in my body, if I wasn't doing this at Milestone and I, for some reason, left here, the very next day, the very next day, if I got a job at a grocery store, came to work for you guys, I would immediately go, who are the people here and how can I serve them and help them be better? And so and our, I think our culture is that, is it's just all about the people. So if that makes sense.
It's beautiful.
You remind me, Gus, like, we've all had those days in business when, you've had a bunch of problem customers or a bunch of problem employees. And I used to joke and say, my next business, I wanted to have no employees and no customers. But then,
Yeah.
then you get back to enjoying the people you're with. But I think it's a good segue into let's talk about Impact, your internal leadership academy. Why did you build that, Gus, and what does it teach?
Yeah. So we have an internal thing. We do it for all of our organizations. Our four main tenets is it's called HT3, which is hire, train, treat, and transition right. So hire, train, treat, and transition right. That's all we pretty much talk about. If everything falls into one of those four things, um, that uh, we try to be very intentional about helping our team members. One thing I noticed in Milestone over the years, if we spent a tenth of the time that we do with technicians on our managers, how much more successful we would be. You know, it's funny with, and I mean, I've got this wrong for so many years. I think we're doing a better job now, but you know, Al, well, both of you guys did a lot of training. I mean, we had it down to where our technicians were telling them where to stand when they knock on the door, right? Where to park the vehicle, how to wear your name tag. But then we bring a manager in and we give them a computer, a phone, and a desk and say, hey, we got to hit these numbers, do a good job. And I think the thing that we got wrong for a long time was not getting into the absolute smallest details. I think one of the mistakes that business leaders make is a projection of, well, if somebody gave me this job, I would start doing these things. Well, that's not really usually that practical. Um, and so for our internal kind of leadership academy, it's everything from how do you do a one-on-one, how do you how do you do a training meeting. So for us, it's literally okay. We have like about a 6 week class on how to train in front of people, and then before you graduate from it, you train in front of a group of your peers, and we all kind of grade it. How do you start the meeting? How do you end it? How do you just different stuff like that. So we've kind of broken down all the parts that we feel like make a service industry company successful. Um, and we kind of do a deep dive on each one of those inside of the hire, train, treat, and transition. You know, one of the interesting things, just because I'm on it, I think one of the most overlooked thing in our businesses is how we transition people. And what I mean transition, they're going to leave the company, whether it's voluntary or involuntary. I know so many companies, this is literally yesterday. Uh, we had a guy who got his master's plumbing license. He's going to go start his own company. And he comes in, turns in his truck and everything and said, I'm quitting. I'm going to go do this, blah, blah, blah. And I just said, John, what? I said, no, 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 you're not doing that. And he goes, well, what do you mean? And I said, first of all, I wish you would have come to me 6 months ago and said, I'm going to go do this, because I would have helped you starting 6 months ago. And there's all, Alan, and I'm sure you can relate. Our biggest competitors now, a lot of them are people that worked here that went and started their own companies. And if they're generally a good human being, and if I've helped them do it, one of our somebody was over here the other day and one of our team members came in and I was training this guy and they were like, what? I cannot believe you're doing that. I said, why? Because they're going to get more business than us. I said, that's just a ridiculous thing. And if they do take business from us, good for them. That means they out earned us. I think on this transition thing, I told John, I said, you're going to come back and we're going to throw you a going away party. I'm going to give you a donation and I'm going to send you out the door in the right way. I think when we talk about being companies that care about people and we care about faith-based stuff and we care about in the people business, we can't just care about people as so long as they benefit us. And I think it says, my one of my favorite quotes is, uh, "Don't listen to what people say, just watch what they do." And I think when our team sees us celebrating people that even might hurt us in business, I think that that actually reinforces who we are as an organization. So in this leadership academy, we just talk about a ton of stuff like that. It's pretty simple. I think it's like maybe 16 different 1 hour modules and that we go through with people and we're just super intentional. And I tell them, I said, my goal is that you'll be a better team leader here. And that when you do decide to leave, because now I've learned almost everyone does at some point. There's some people that are, lifers here, but uh, that you'll be more valuable in the marketplace. And so that's something that we do. I'm passionate about it. And so, any questions on that?
Yes, can I see it?
Could I just borrow that book for a couple of days? Yeah, yeah. No, I think it's great, Gus. And I'll hold my hand up here and say that we've had plenty of people leave and start their own business. We've never thrown a going away party or given them a donation. But I have always, with every single one that left the right way, that gave me some notice, and I can think of one that left about 4 months ago, and he. Um, about 2 months before he left, he asked me to go to lunch with him, and he said, "Tell me how you started your business, this business." And I told him, and he said, "What advice would you give me if I was starting a business?" He was, in fact, turning in his notice without turning in his notice. And we've had a couple of lunches since, and actually, I owe him a lunch. Like, we're supposed to meet pretty soon. But I told him, I said, "Look, I will be your mentor for as long as you want me to be, because I want you to succeed. Like, I actually care about you." He put 13 years into our business. It's tough to see him leaving, but I want him to be successful. And I think when you want your best for your people, whether it's inside or outside your company, I think that's a winning formula, Gus. So I have to commend you on that. I think it's
Yeah.
great. Yeah.
This
Uh,
is this is
yeah.
such a hot topic. I would love to stay here, but we've
Yeah.
got so many other good things. Uh, Gus, you guys hold roundtables, and in this roundtable, the rule is you got to give constructive feedback, not just praise. As a matter of fact, I'm not even sure if praise is part of it. I'm sure it probably is to an extent, but why do you strip out the compliments? How do you get to the feedback? And the big, big, big question that I have to that is actually, how did you get to the place where radical candor was accepted and people understood the reason why, and being able to receive it? Because that's a culture thing and a mindset thing.
Yeah, I don't know how we got there. Probably just years of frustration of I've tried this every other way. Now I'm just going to tell you that you suck. And so I don't know. We do the roundtables, and really the purpose of those is when we do it, and it's just part of our routine management process. Is we sit down with the team members and tell them, don't tell us one thing we're doing right. I don't care about that. I don't want to know that, because that's our job and that's what we're supposed to do. We're with you right now. And I just want you to tell me, if you were in charge, what you would do different. And what are the things that people are talking about in the parking lot that they're not telling me? And it's literally impossible for you to offend me or to offend us. And like in our leadership academy, that's one of the things I train our coaches on doing. I'm like, man, if you can't sit there and hear that someone says that type of stuff, you're not going to be a very good leader here. I don't think you can be a very good leader anywhere. You have to want to hear bad news. So in those scenarios, we train them. You get out your pen, you get a pad, and say, here we go. Start telling me what we can do if we wanted to be better. Uh, it does a couple of things. We always lead with that because that opens the door for us to give feedback in that exact same way. So, but we kind of are the leader. So we lead and say, I'm fine with you telling me the things unemotionally that I need to change. uh, because I'm probably going to tell you that at some point. But I want to start with that. We use this term around here, and it's a part of everything we do. It's called unbelievable trust. And the reason we call it unbelievable is people just don't think it's believable. And what does that mean? It's uh, if you're one of my direct reports and you haven't walked in my office in the past 30 days and said, "Hey, Gus," and I go, "Hey, what's up?" and you haven't said, "Man, I have screwed this up so bad and I just need help." I go, if you haven't done that in the past 30 days, then you're not doing your job. because I've done this job too long in home services. Something is screwed up every single second of every single day. And we're all constantly learning. And I tell them, our direct reports, and I tell them to tell their direct reports, I don't care that it's messed up. What I care about is if we're not talking about it. And the reason it doesn't get talked about is because people want to pretend like they haven't messed up because they've had a boss that jumped all over them or belittled them or this, that, and the other. I said, I will praise you for coming and saying, I mean, this is real life. We manage a lot of our marketing in house. And this was, I don't know, back last summer, they made a change and we spent, I think it was $70,000 within like 2 hours on PPC. And they had opened up the geographical area to the entire United States instead of just DFW. And they came in and said, "Hey, Gus, we got something to tell you." And I go, "Okay, what?" And they said, "Here's what happened." I go, "Okay, well, how bad was it?" And they're like, "We spent like $75,000 in the last 2 hours." And I said, "All right, let's go to lunch." And they go, "Why?" I go, "Let's celebrate." They go, "For what?" And I go, "Because we just learned a $75,000 lesson that can't ever happen again. But thank you for telling me. Let's go." And I think we have this entire we try to have this unbelievable trust, which means I can tell you anything, good or bad, and we're going to handle it in a way that is as good as possible. And so that's not all fairy tales. I mean, there's bad stuff that happens, and I'm like, and our coaches have to deal with. But around the whole feedback thing, it's a culture that we tried to build, which is just telling people the truth. Life is too short. These jobs are too hard to not have an environment like that, I think.
Again, very admirable, Gus. I can only imagine there must have been times when you had to count to 10 before you said, "Let's go to lunch," because I,
Absolutely.
I know I've heard some horror stories throughout the year, so I'm sure you have too. So, Gus, I have a question about culture. How do you maintain your culture as your team grows into the hundreds of people? And what breaks if you're not intentional?
Well, Alan, I would like to hear your answer to this as much as I would say mine, because we've broken a lot here over the years. The most irritating comment in the entire world is we're not a family company anymore. And I'm like, what on earth do you mean? And what I learned that they were saying over the 20 plus years of doing this is the people that I now work with don't care about me the same way that I used to feel cared for. And so, th- what I learned for us here and the way that we like to do things is uh, I've learned that no amount of intentionality for us will ever replace the authenticity of who we are. We're at the end of the day, we're a people first, genuinely care about people, and to I can't train people if that's not who they are. So, Alan, for us, where I got it wrong in the past was I would have somebody that was in leadership, but at the end of the day, they didn't really believe what we believed, and so now I've learned put find the right people. I'll talk about what that means. And when you have the right people in leadership, there's a lot less managing because they're going to make decisions the same way that I would go about making decisions. And I don't have to follow them around trying to fix the things. So for us, I've learned whenever I interview someone for leadership, I am almost 100% interested in who they are outside of work. Someone's listening to this, uh, really soak that in. I'm way more interested in what do you do when you're not here? Uh, I want to hear that they volunteer and coach their kids' softball team. I want to hear they're involved with Boy Scouts. I want to hear they volunteer at the church. I want to hear that, they've been married to the same person for a long time. I know there's times that doesn't work out, so I'm not saying that that's a end all be all. I want to hear that, you know, that their kids want to be around. I'm searching for all of that because what I found is people can pretend at work for a long time, but ultimately they will default to who they are outside of work whenever the times are tough. And so for us, whenever we got the people in leadership, which we now have, that all have similar beliefs outside of work, we're all trying to be involved in the community when no one's even paying us. Uh, that's everything breaks. And this is kind of what I started with is the why. It doesn't really matter what your why is. As far as the organization is concerned, if your why is, I want to make the most amount of money humanly possible, great. You just need to have leaders that think that exact same thing, because that is the culture that you will end up having. And if you're the only one carrying that culture, then as it gets bigger, you're going to have people that don't care about that and it won't be happening. If your goal is to genuinely impact and enrich people's lives, and that's what you want to hang your hat on, that my life was worth living in the sense of how I contributed to society, then I have to have people that believe that same thing, or else it all falls apart. So I know that's a long-winded answer. I also think, man, the bigger these companies get, between our different organizations, we have this year probably 750, 800 total team members. These leaders that we have end up being their own entrepreneurs, and they have their own, what I like to call, campsites, and they're building their own things. And I'm not close enough to know it. I just know the authenticity of what they're doing. And I'm a big fan of Hobby Lobby, David Green, that family. I read everything, been up there, met with them. And one of the things that he says, $11 billion company, he goes, I don't fly at 30,000 feet. I live in the weeds I, because that's where all the problems are. And I believe that same thing. I listen to people, some of the conferences that say, I hire these people and then I'm out of it. I let them do their thing. I've just never been successful doing that. I'm not saying to some level that that's not true, but man, I'm in it. And I tell our team, I go, I'm not in it here micromanaging. I just think two brains are better than one. Let's go do this together. And then, you jump around different stuff. So a lot of stuff there. It's just our philosophy, probably a lot of ways that end up in the right spot.
Gus, what you're talking about when you go to culture, I've heard people say that culture eats strategy for lunch, and I didn't really understand what that meant. And I'm not sure when it hit me, but it hit me at a point, I think probably perhaps in trying to systemize everything to the nth degree, that I begin to realize that every company that's like, hey, we need more systems, we need more systems, we need more systems. There certainly are important systems and processes that need to be in place for sure. But when you're systemizing and processing things that are actually reflections of culture, that just means the culture isn't built. Because when you are growing and you're scaling, you can't systemize what the heart is supposed to do. And that's why culture wins, in my opinion, is because it is the ultimate SOP. It is the nature and the heartbeat of what we're trying to do, the reasons why we're doing this thing, because that sort of dictates decision making. And without that, then yeah, you're going to have an SOP book that's this thick and growing by the week.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm 100% down with you on that. Um, let's talk about discipline and what it takes to grow and finding purpose. And the first thing in the growth area that I want to talk about is the fact that you guys have essentially stayed in one market. From what I understand, you guys haven't been tempted to really grow out of the Dallas Fort Worth market, and you believe strongly in staying right there. So why is that, or am I wrong?
No, you're right. I like doing what we do. I like doing who we get to do it with. I hate traveling. I never wanted a life that meant me spending time away from my family and my boys at the age that they're at. So having a company in some other state that I'd have to go to, and I am not wired to be able to do things halfway. So if you said there's a company in Kansas City that's ours, I would be incapable of just like saying, well, it's not that great, but it's doing okay. I feel responsible to those people there. So we just have never done it for that reason. I can't hardly get the damn place we have to work the way that I want it, and I'm here every day. I can't imagine trying to get it going in Atlanta. Um, I also, because our goal is to be very involved in our community, The more that we do in DFW, the more I'm able to leverage that. I have different people that can move between the different companies. We have more job opportunities. The people that work here, their kids can intern here. I can leverage our resources for nonprofits. We can help out at different facilities and do repairs. So there's just a lot to it. And I just feel like it's a compounding effect on leverage of impact when we're all just in the same area, if that makes sense. I've seen other people do it and it seems like it goes great for them. We just don't have any interest in it.
No, you're just really clear on what's important to you.
Which is great. Gus, when someone pitches you a game-changing software or an AI tool, what's your internal filter doing?
I will tell you that we just switched from Successware to Service Titan. When you said you're managing a crisis, Todd, if I was managing any crisis, it's that. We 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 switched January 1st to Service Titan. We were on Successware for that long, so if I don't think I need to say anything else with how I feel about new technology in the trades. It took us that long. I waited too long. I did. My internal filter is no. With AI tools and anything like that. I'm probably too far in one direction on that. Like I said, we should have switched off Successware prior to that. But I feel like the general public of trades is too far in the other direction. Somewhere between us is probably the right answer.
Do you still have a typewriter, Gus?
If I did, I wish I did. And if anyone's watching this, they'll laugh when I say this. Don't text me. I have about 170 unopened text messages right now. I'm horrible at it. I don't like responding to them. I wish I didn't have a cell phone. Um, so typewriter would be great. Yes.
No, just teasing you.
I was going to say
Yeah.
the Western Union next time.
But
Yeah.
but we're I think we're a slow adapter when it comes to AI and that stuff.
Yeah, it's not a bad strategy at all, because I think a lot of companies jump in too fast and then regret it or have to backpedal or whatever.
Yeah.
So I don't think it's a bad strategy at all.
So I know you're a slow adapter, and I understand the reasons why, I believe, based off your personality. But are there any places that you are using AI now, whether it's even if it's at the Chat GPT level, just to get organized in like some of your trainings? Are you using it in any fashion?
I think all of that stuff. We have a team here that uses that type of stuff, and I think we're messing with it. First of all, I don't even know what true AI is because it's not artificially intelligent. It's just gathering a bunch of data and figuring stuff out faster. It's kind of always existed, right? But the I think it's just more available and goes faster now. We're using it in the call center some. I'm a big fan of it when I filter everything through what's going to be the best thing for our team members and our customers. And really, it's the customer first. We're a team first company, but the customer pays all the bills. So we filter everything through. We're a high value provider. Is this going to make the customer's experience with us easier and more enjoyable? Yes or no? And if it's not that, then we're not doing it. I do like it in the background of qualifying calls, giving coaching opportunities, and all that different stuff.
Okay. Um, Let me ask you about private equity. I'm sure you've been offered so much money, and yet you've said no. So, why is that? What's your decision not to let go of Milestone and keep operating it?
Yeah, that's a big question. It goes back to our why. Um, there was a season when and I never wanted to sell it, but felt like I was being stupid not to. And I just literally, I, I had a moment of clarity, and it's back to our why. Um, I was privileged to grow up in a very good home with very good parents that are still married. And my mom was a school teacher. My dad's had the same job for 60 years, about never made a lot of money. I didn't start this company to make the most amount of money. Um, and so I could never, I had this moment of clarity. We had always made the best decision for the organization, but it felt like selling the organization would all of a sudden be the best decision for me, but not everybody else. And I could just never get comfortable with that. Um, when I say that some things I say are offensive, I know, Alan, you sold your company. I have no idea what's right for Alan. And the good thing is God's never going to ask me, what do you think about what Alan O'Neill did? He's just going to worry about what I did. For me, I just know that if I care about our people here, uh, and currently I don't feel like there's any private equity people that I'm aware of that would be a better decision for. I realize that at some point that whenever I need to be done doing this, the best decision may be somebody else come do this. Like I totally get that. That's just not now. Um, and so uh, I think that most of the people that I know that have sold to private equity, the statement is, I'll never have to worry about anything again, and my kids won't. As a person of faith, I can give you about a million scriptures that says we're already supposed to not worry about that. And I'm damn sure not worried about my kids having so much money they never have to do anything. Alan, I'm not saying that that was or wasn't you. So I want to be very clear about that. I just hear them on podcasts and different stuff like that. So I always say if Chick-fil-A was buying home service companies, then I'd probably put my hand up. I'd make a really good employee and maybe we'd get free nuggets. So,
No, I think you sort of hit the nail on the head, Gus, when you said it's a personal decision, right? Like when I got my offer, it was the right decision for me. I felt at the right time, and I've had zero regrets about it. I'm also a huge admirer of your decision to hold on to Milestone because I think, you know, fully understanding your why, you probably made the right decision for you and your team, Gus. So, like, kudos to you for that. I think it's admirable because especially 2 or 3 years ago, some of the multiples were, what's the saying, batshit crazy, right? Like just
yeah.
totally off the wall, totally off the wall. So yeah, it takes a lot of guts and a lot of internal like belief that everything's going to be okay to turn down that kind of money. But um, I'm an admirer of your decision to do so. So
Well, thank you. And I'm admire, like I said, of what you guys built and then got the opportunity to go to that next season of life and find, there's a guy I'm very close to that built an incredibly large organization. And he's kind of a mentor to me. And he's in his mid 70s now, recently got cancer, very strong believer. And I said, what have you learned that you didn't think you would know? He said, Gus, it's embarrassing, but I would have told you, I would have thought I cared a lot more about the organization I built at this point. But all I really care about is the relationships that I had and the impact that I had on the people that were around me. He said, so don't lose sight of that. No one's ever going to care about what you built because there's always someone that's going to do it bigger and better and faster in the future than you are. And that'll fade. Just worry about the people that are around you. And that was a conversation I had with him about 3 months ago. And I wrote a little memo to myself that just said, uh, with the time you have, what are you going to do and who are you going to do it with? And so I like what we do here. I really do. I someday I wish I could have found something different besides the trades because it can be really hard. But I do like all the people here. And so, anyways, yeah.
but it's what we know at this stage of our lives, Gus. It's what we've grown up with. It's what we know. It's what we all love to do, right? So, I mean, I think when you love the trade as much as we do, although there are some days it's challenging, and you love your people as much as we do, although there are some days they're challenging. It's a great business. I think the single thing I miss the most about not being involved in the day to day is the relationship with the people. Like everybody from the newest apprentice to the most senior
Yeah.
technician, so
Yeah.
yeah.
You know what's interesting, just talking to you two, is that I can remember feeling that way when I was day to day,
Mm-hmm.
when I was a technician, and then I became, the marketing and sales, and eventually ended up sort of being sort of the in facto GM of the first air conditioning company that I was at. And then I left and went to clockwork, and I was convinced that I was still supposed to be in the field. And then when I went back in the field here in Austin, I realized that my greatest joy was actually when I was training. I just didn't know it.
Mm-hmm.
So once I started this, I can't. I've had plenty of stress moments, like going, "Oh my gosh, this is the worst feeling ever." By the way, Gus, one of my worst feelings ever was when I got the email from Alan, and I checked my phone at 10 o'clock at night, and I shouldn't have when he was firing me. It's like, literally, that kept me. I'm not exaggerating. That was literally one of the worst moments. And that's one. By the way, it's one of the reasons why I don't check email when I go home anymore.
It's just what we do with problem employees and vendors, right?
It is.
That's right.
So I've had a few of those moments, but can I tell you that 97% of my days when I wake up is I wake up, I go have coffee, and I look at the sunrise, and this is in the evening when I see the sky, and I'm just filled with this sense of like purpose and joy. And 3% of the time it's horrible, but 97% of the time it's all purpose and joy. And I just go to myself, I don't care if I never sell the thing. I don't ever want to lose this feeling.
Yeah.
I don't want to lose this feeling.
Absolutely.
I just hope the opportunities are there for me down the road, because that feeling is what I live for. And that feeling, by the way, let me be clear, isn't related to work. It's part of work. It's actually related to all the things that this life provides to me. The ability to watch my kids grow. Like you, I hate traveling. I almost never travel. I see my kids grow.
Mm-hmm.
I have a beautiful lifestyle, and sometimes I struggle with that because I'm like, it could be a million times bigger, but then I would be sacrificing all these things that actually bring me the joy.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, well, I'm going to stick with it. All right. Sorry, I made it about me. I do that sometimes.
I love it. I'd let it listen to that.
It's the truth. It's the truth. Um, Alan, forgive me. I think I stepped over your question there, buddy.
No. Gus, what would you say are the 1 to 2 things that Milestone does exceptionally well, and what are the 2 things you're still working to improve?
It's a great question. I think the 1 or 2 things that we do okay is the in-home experience. I think we do pretty good with that. We train pretty fanatically on it. And then I think we do a good job with taking care of our team members that we have, caring for them well. I think some of the stuff we still need help with just some of the basic stuff. Inventory is a total disaster right now. I know it's a low hanging fruit, but it's just a total disaster for us. Warranties could be better. Um, you know, understanding some of the marketing stuff. So I think there's stuff that we're just always, I don't know. We're just always working on it. So yeah,
I don't think true entrepreneurs are ever happy with where you're at.
I agree with
I
that.
I always go back to I remember Jimmy Dale asking me one time, did you ever consider getting into air conditioning? This is when we were still only plumbing. And I said, when we get good at plumbing, we'll talk about air conditioning. We were pretty good at plumbing, but you're
Yeah.
just never totally satisfied with where you're at.
Before we wrap up here, I don't really feel like we have to ask you about your faith and how it influences, because I think that you've demonstrated that in the conversation so
Mhm.
far. But I do know that you have more than just Milestone. You have Firehouse Roofing, Wellborn Garage, Hank's Handyman, and at least at one point in the past, CrossFit 190 before you gave it back to Corey. And I think you had a few fine restaurants too. So I'm not sure about all those things, but I'd like you to talk just a little bit about the other business models that you're doing. And the one I'm actually most curious about is Wellborn Garages, because my nephew is right in the middle of starting up his own garage door business in Hattiesburg, Mississippi. So he's like right at the birth of it. So I want to send him this from
Mhm.
Gus to him. So tell us a little bit about that
Yeah.
side of the business.
The best thing for him, Todd, is just come up and observe for a week. Uh, Learn. I think our garage company and all those companies, I have essentially a 50-50 partner. And so, uh, they own 50%, and then we own 50%. Wellborn Garage, great company, does about $20 million here in DFW. Strictly residential service and repair. Same kind of model. I'm not going to say it's the best garage company, but I haven't found one that I think is operationally excellent as much as them. And so we have that one. He should just come up and ride along, see what's going on. Uh, our our roofing company is absolutely exploding. I was talking to a friend of mine that had sold his company up in the Northeast a couple of years ago, and now they're in roofing. And he's like, "Oh my God, this is so much easier than HVAC." And there's a lot of truth to that. So that's going really well. We have a handyman company. It's smaller. It's $6 or $7 million, and it started off just really doing the work of our other companies. But then what we found out is you send them out there, but then the customer always has all this other stuff that they need done that really, so that's going pretty well. We just got into weed and pest control. We just bought a company there. So we're going to try to grow that. So it's pretty exciting. Like I said, we're here in DFW between all those different ones. We have our eye on trying to hit, 200 million, trying to be pretty profitable doing it. That's these past couple of years have been tougher than the years before. And so, I made the mistake. The restaurants actually went really well. We had 11 of them at one point, made money on them, but ended up getting out of those. We actually had 7 gyms at one point, got out of all those. So now we're just basically in home services, and pretty much any service-based business here in DFW we're interested in. And so kind of just we'll probably keep doing this in DFW for the next, hopefully, God willing, 30 years of my life. And then hopefully there's a plan after that someone wants to take this and run with it. So we'll see. But yep.
So, Gus, what you've built at Milestone, it isn't just big, it's remarkable. In a space where so many chase growth at all costs, you've shown that how you grow matters just as much as how fast. You've invested in people, prioritized culture, and led with great strength. Thank you for pulling back the curtain for us today. We really appreciate it, Gus.
Yeah, and if this episode challenged you to think and it challenged you towards growth, then share it with someone in your circle. Gus has just given us a clinic in sustainable scaling, deep leadership, and principled success. This is the $100 million mindset, and this is how you do it right.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Yeah. Thank you, guys. If there's anyone watching and I said something that you like, what does that mean? Always feel free to reach out, Gus at callmilestone.com. We'll do our best to answer any questions here. Alan and Todd, I've watched all the episodes you guys have done so far. Great job. And you're putting great stuff out there that I think is helping a lot of people.
Well, thank you.
All right. And if you are reaching out to Gus, just don't text him, okay?
Don't text. I appreciate you guys.
Hey, thanks so much for watching the show this week. Head over to toddliles.com/mindset to get the show notes. Please make sure to like, subscribe, and follow so you never miss a new episode of the show. And if you enjoyed this episode, then share it. It really helps us get the word out. You've been watching the $100 Million Mindset with Alan O'Neill and Toenail Todd Liles.